Hey guys, Shadow Revealer here. To start off 2025, I wanted to rank uh every single movie that I watched, whether it was released in theaters or direct to DVD, that came out in 2024. And I saw 24 movies that year. Yeah, see what I did there? I will rank all 24 movies that I saw last year in 2024. Yep, all 2024 movies ranked from worst to best. Now, a couple of things before I get started. One, I'm actually going to be splitting this into two videos because I would like to try, at the very least, delve into detail with every single entry. Yeah, that's 24 movies. So I'm thinking I'll do the worst of the worst to the fine enough at the top. So I'll do 24 to from entry number 24 to entry number 13 for this video, and then the next one will be 12 to 1, etc., etc. Secondly, I would like to rank these movies into separate tiers. Into 7 different tiers. Here we start with the F tier, or as I call it, the failure tier. These are the movies that I consider the worst of the worst, shows no effort, or just outright pissed me off. Next, we've got the E tier, as I call it, the E tier, or as I call it, the embarrassing tier. The one that didn't outright piss me off, but was kind of humiliating to watch, both in terms of a screenplay or character development. Either way, it's kind of sad. Here we got the D tier, or as I call it, the disappointing tier. The ones that could be better, but overall just kind of disappointed me with the potential the material has been given, or there could be some areas that need more improving, or it could be how shortened the topic is, or how longer it could explore and expand. Next, we got the C tier, as I call the competent tier, where it's pretty much the 50-50 type. 50% of it's good, the best part of the movie, and fairly good enough. Or it could be the worst part of the movie, not fun, or just downright disappointing. So it's 50-50, competent enough, but not too bad. Then we got the B tier, as I call it, the brilliant tier. I consider these movies really good, have great material, or just downright decent. I know I could have used another B word for this, but I think brilliant was great enough. Then we get the A tier, as I call the awesome tier. These movies are pretty fun. I would rewatch them if I could. And I show it to other people that want to watch it with me or are interested. And lastly, we got the S tier, or as I call, the super tier. These movies are pretty much either iconic, memorable, or going to age gracefully as time goes on. They could be rewatched multiple times, or watch with other people to show what kind of masterpieces on there. Now, without any further ado, let's get on with it. But last thing, spoilers for the upcoming movies ahead. Proceed with caution. If you haven't seen any of these movies, I recommend stopping the video. I recommend I recommend that you stop the video. I might put a timestamp onto to skip that part and go to the next one. I think that would help. Hopefully I'll try and remind myself to do that. But if you have seen these movies, this list is my opinion. If you disagree with me or you agree with me, let me know down in the comments below. Just don't try and be nasty about it, please. We're all fair people here. And now, without further ado, let's go. And the award for the worst movie of 2024 goes to... taking the third crown, number 24, The Mousetrap. Okay. For those who don't know, this is another horror portrayal of an iconic character. Now, do you know that in 2022 there was the Grinch horror parody called The Mean One? Yeah, that existed. Then you got in 2023 a horror parody of Winnie the Pooh called Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Well, with The Mousetrap the very following year, given its title, I'll give you a small hint for those who can't figure it out. Haha, that's right! They made a horror movie about me! Please tell me that does not get demonetized. Sorry about that. Yeah. With the Grinch and Winnie the Pooh, Mickey Mouse gets his own horror parody. And it's possibly one of the most poorly written, poorly acted, poorly portrayed, one of the worst, outright pointless horror movies that I ever watched. And that is a lot coming from me, because I've seen among the worst that we have created as a species. But this movie, my God, where do I honestly begin with this? Alright. Actually, no. It suffers from the exact same problem that I had with Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. It's damn too dark. You can barely see anything. That you have to squint hunt enough to see what's on screen. I don't know if that was a creative choice, but I don't know whose idea was it, but I don't know, it's just a really dumb idea. Oh, and the screenplay is honestly one of the worst. Now, I'm not against the idea of this into a movie. If it was like a dark comedy with Mickey Mouse, literally Mickey Mouse, not a guy dressed as Mickey Mouse, which is actually the movie, by the way, I would have been on board. Something dark and funny as he goes around attacking and pretty much slaying his way through people throughout the movie. That would have been interesting. But we get some random guy we just met, possessed by the mask. Yeah, they pretty much went the Blood and Honey Part 1 route of being cheaply made with masks instead of prosthetics like in The Mean One, which, by the way, was actually one of the best things about the movie. I mean, it's just dumb. Oh, and the acting is just utterly one of the worst that I ever seen. These are not human beings. They're they're tropes, just waiting to get picked off one by one. Oh, and you know the biggest problem I had with this movie? Get ready. Trust me. They ruined the ending. Yeah, there's this stupid framing device that tells the story from one character's perspective. But I'm not all interested because they show who it is. Yeah, you pretty much ruin your ending showing who survived. I mean, who does that? I mean, who honestly does that and thinks they're gonna get away with that? No, you can't do that. I mean, if you want a framing device, maybe shoot it in a way that doesn't show the survivor. Maybe this person doesn't talk at all, and then we as we bring the pieces together, and then we eventually figure out, oh, it was you the whole time. That would have been great, but no, they just outright spoil who survives at the end, and we keep coming back to this, like, why are we doing this? This is dumb. This is really, seriously dumb. Oh, and if you're waiting for Carnage Candy, there's absolutely nothing here. I mean, give Blood and Honey credit. They had something unique, and you actually see the carnage on screen, mostly. With this one, it's either cut to off screen, lame, or with digital blood that looks not the least bit confusing. Oh, and did I mention that Mickey's allergic to lights and can teleport? No? Because he doesn't do that! I mean, up until March, the next entry was considered one of the worst movies that I saw in 2024. But The Mousetrap has taken the cake in honestly being the most mind-numbingly stupid. And nothing against the director. Jamie Bailey, you tried with the material that you were given to you, but please do better screenplays. Because they ain't one of them. Please, I recommend skipping this one. It's worth it is not worth 19 minutes of your time. It's slow, predictable, spoilery, and it barely gives you anything worth satisfying. Honestly, this movie is just terrible. Honestly, one of the worst horror movies that I ever saw. And I went to see Exorcist Believer. Yeah, let that sink in. So, and if you're wondering where does this lead to, well, it's obvious where it's going to go. The F tier. It's an absolute failure that I hope they do not repeat again. Because guess what? There's another Mickey Mouse horror adaptation in the works. And I hope to God it is better than this piece of garbage. Number 23, Kung Fu Panda 4. Now, I know some of you are fuming right now, typing in the comments, oh, how dare you put a DreamWorks movie, let alone a sequel to one of the most iconic animated movies of all time. Well, I had to say, did you even watch the movie? Did you even comprehend what was wrong with this movie? Now, up until last year, I considered Kung Fu Panda 3 the weakest of the trilogy. But after watching Kung Fu Panda 4, Kung Fu Panda 3, I give my humblest apologies. At least you're not Kung Fu Panda 4. Okay, where to honestly start? I'll start with the villain. Now, Viola Davis could have been in something interesting. A villain that could utterly transform into anybody is a creepy idea. I mean, imagine the possibilities that this villain could give us. Something creepy, something unique, and she can be at least intimidating. But the chameleon is anything but. Oh, and do you know what her motivation is for getting rid of Kung Fu? It's because she was rejected for being too, prepare yourselves for this, too small. Listen to this, writers. You do realize that a freaking mantis and a snake are smaller than a chameleon? Did you not? No, that is the dumbest motivation for a villain. This is utterly stupid. This is so dumb. This is honestly dumb. And no, do not write down in the comments, I hate this character because she's a woman. No. Do not try that sexist argument. No. No. Whereas Tai Lung in the original was memorable, had a tragic backstory, and is voiced perfectly by Ian McShane, and a little bit on Tai Lung later. He's actually one of the another problem with this movie. Lord Shen for Kung Fu Panda 2 was intimidating. He had a really dark backstory, voiced by Gary Oldman, and he's honestly my favorite villain from the series. Honestly, who would have thought a peacock could be terrifying? Oh yeah, and he's really darkly funny. Before the chameleon came along, I thought in Kung Fu Panda 3 that General Kai was the weakest villain out of the three, but after seeing what the chameleon brought to screen, I humbly apologize to General Kai. General Kai at least had a unique backstory, was voiced by J.K. Simmons, which will be mentioned later on this list, and he has a cool ability of taking people's chi. That's kind of clever, and I honestly loved these villains. But the chameleon has nothing to offer. She just has a power she just uses on multiple occasions. Woo! Oh, and speaking of Tai Lung in this movie, originally they gave him a bigger part to play. Now, don't quote me on this. Apparently, I think in the original script, Tai Lung and Po were going to fight side by side to take down the chameleon, giving Tai Lung a redemption and fighting alongside Po and apologizing to Master Shifu for all the pain, trouble, and horrible things that he's done in the first movie. Where the heck was that? That could have been so freaking cool. Tai Lung and the Dragon Warrior fighting side by side. That could have been amazing, but no. Tai Lung is pretty much basically to a cameo, and that's freaking it. I mean, that's freaking it. Hell, he doesn't even get a scene with Master Shifu, who is barely in this, by the way. Oh, and speaking of being barely in this, the Furious 5 are only shown until the end, until the final scene. I mean, don't get me wrong, they barely appeared in the last movie, but at least they actually were there. They were barely mentioned in this movie, and they only show up at the end credits. I mean, talk about dumb. Oh, and speaking of dumb decisions, okay, now, I want to make this perfectly clear. I do not hate Awkwafina as an actress. I think she can be funny. I mean, I liked her in The Bad Guys, and she was funny in Renfield. Yeah. But any other movie she's done, whether it's, pretty much animated, ever since the Little Mermaid remake, she's either given nothing to work with or just playing annoying characters. And her playing as Zen, a fox, who's a thief, could have been something interesting, but all this character does is steal, lie, and backstab at every chance she gets. And how? And And what is she rewarded for all this? Poe passes on the Dragon Warrior teachings to her. Are you kidding me? Are you for real? This girl, this fox, has been stealing from you, lured you, and pretty much backstabbed you, and you want to give her your Dragon Warrior status to her? The Furious Five was right there! I mean, in the first movie, Tigress was supposed to be originally the Dragon Warrior until Poe showed up. Tigress was right freaking there, Poe! Oh my god. Jeez. Talking about the amount of missed opportunity. Jesus, oh my god, this movie pisses me off so much. Ugh. Jesus Christ. Ugh. I mean, this movie outright annoys me. The story is among the stupidest I've ever seen. The characters are among the most annoying, -2. Oh, and it pretty much screws you over after the movie is over. Oh my god. Now, is there anything I like in this movie? Except 2 good characters that I thoroughly enjoyed. Bryan Cranston and James Hong as Poe's dads. Li Shan and Ping. They're honestly the best part of this movie. They go out to find their son, and they get into shenanigans that actually made me laugh. Okay, there's a scene where one of them falls, and the other is holding on. But just when one of them falls, it cuts to a wider show where they show that they just barely touched the ground. That actually got a huge laugh out of me. That's the one and only good part throughout this whole movie. That one good part. Why wasn't the movie about them? Honestly, their relationship and their bond over their son is honestly the best in the movie. Honestly, that was the best part. That was honestly the best part. This movie pretty much screwed me over as soon as the credits roll. And to think they're making another one. I'm not even kidding. There's another one. And if it's anything like this movie, God help us. Because if this is the road we're going down, then I lost all hope in the franchise. And apologies to those who did like this movie. That's just you. Just keep this movie far away from me. Just watch the first 3 and ignore this one. Screw this movie and everything about it. Number 22, Mean Girls, the 2024 reboot. Now, I watched the original all the way back in January 2024 to prepare for this movie. And honestly, the original is so iconic, it's so quotable, and so funny. And it makes me kind of excited for the remake, which is basically an adaptation of the musical, which was based off the original. Yeah, kind of weird. And after I saw the movie, I can honestly say I found it pretty bad. Okay. It's honestly just the original, scene and scene recreation, just with musical numbers. Now, don't get me wrong, the musical numbers aren't that bad. Some of them are fine enough. And some are passable. But some of the acting from the characters feels either out of place or just downright doesn't feel like, well, the characters they portray. Okay, so there are two actors in this movie that not only like the original, but honestly one of the funniest. One is Jacqueline Phoebe as Damien. Sorry if I mispronounced that. I honestly kind of like this portrayal of Damien. He was legitimately funny, and I do like his spin on the character. And yes, I think it's because, well, you know. But don't get me wrong, I think it's a great spin on the take. Same with Avatikika Vanabanapo as Karen. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Let me know down in the comments how you pronounce it. She honestly was the funniest portrayal of Karen that I've seen. Don't get me wrong, I liked Amanda Seyfried in the original. She was fine enough as the dumb bimbo stereotype. Amanda Seyfried did that fantastically. She was funny. But I do like the Karen in this version too. She plays the bimbo part pretty funnily enough, but she also has a bit of weirdness to her that I kind of enjoyed. Now on to the actors that sadly didn't do well. Now I think Renee Rapp is fine enough as an actor, but she's not Regina George. Don't try and be Rachel McAdams, cause you're not. You're just a personality-less, less hot version of Rachel McAdams as Regina George. At least in that one, she was funny, she was a real good bully, and she was just downright funny. Now, there are 3 original cast members that came in for a return, and honestly, it feels like they're doing this in their sleep. Nothing against Tina Fey, Tim Meadows, and Lindsay Lohan. They're good actors. It's just they feel like they're phoning in their performances. Makes me wonder what they're doing. The Lion King remake route of bringing back some of the original actors from the original version and bringing them into the remake, but it honestly doesn't work, and it's a trend they should not have started anyway. And sadly, it's not going to stop anyways. Now, is there any stuff I did like? I honestly like I honestly do like the Christmas song they did. Now, when I was going into this thinking they were going to recreate Jingle Bell Rock, I was ready to rage out. They were going to butcher it. But they didn't do Jingle Bell Rock. They did Rocking Around the Pole, which I think was in the musical, I think. But I honestly kind of like this. I honestly kind of like Rocking Around the Pole in the movie. It was honestly funny, the music was catchy, and it ended on a hilarious note. It's honestly the best part of the movie, and the one that I rewatched a lot of times. I mean, the musical number was done good, the choreography was great, and the music's catchy. I honestly like Rocking Around the Pole. It was probably the best part of the movie. So, yeah. Well, not exactly insulting like the last 2 entries. It was a pointless remake that was obviously a cash grab. So yeah, I'm putting it not in the F tier, so it's not an utter failure, but I would put it in the E tier. It's pretty much a cash grab that tried to appeal to fans of the original movie and failed miserably. But with Rocking Around the Pole, that's what earns it not from the F tier to the E tier. Honestly, Rocking Around the Pole is so good. Number 21, Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. Honestly, this was kind of okay. Now, let's get the bad stuff out of the way. The story is kind of nonsensical. I mean, it kind of strays from what it's supposed to try to tell, and, what it isn't, but it feels out of place. And the villain isn't that memorable. I honestly can't even remember its name. Oh, and Emily Allen Lind as Melody, she was fine enough. I mean, it was kind of interesting what they were doing with her character, but it wasn't enough to get me hooked. But the acting is good enough. I mean, Paul Rudd does his comedy shtick. I liked McKenna Grace as I liked McKenna Grace. She was fine as Phoebe. I liked her. Uh, she brought interesting sense for the character. I liked they tried to give her some sort of arc to go through, but it feels a bit off sometimes. And the effects and the effects for the most part are pretty passable enough. I do want to like this movie. It's just it's fine enough. But the best part of the movie is honestly where the new cast and the original cast team up. Yes, that was done in the last movie, but in this one, they actually do team up to take the villain down. And even though it's a failed attempt, they tried. And I do like the interactions with the original cast, with the new cast, trying to, figure out the situation. I like that. It's fine enough as a movie, but it's very muddled in some places. Yeah, it's a short entry, but there's not a lot to talk about. So yeah, it's not embarrassing, it's just disappointing, hence why I put it in the D tier. The interaction with the original and the new cast members is what puts it in the D tier for me. It's kind of disappointing, but see how we're getting another I heard when we're getting another movie that's coming out pretty soon. Hopefully that one is a step up than this. Number 20, Descendants, The Rise of Red. Now, yeah, this is honestly the weakest of the Descendants franchise. And the stuff they could have explored, they sadly didn't do much with the material they were given. Okay, let me explain. I like this idea, but putting time travel into the mix feels rather forced. Now, I know there's an idea in there, but making the whole movie set in the past feels pretty unnecessary. And oh yeah, and it's pretty damn short. With the original trilogy, it was a 3-act structure. Introduce the character, introduce the conflict, and pretty much settled the conflict at the end. Pretty good, right? Okay, so in the first movie, they introduce Mal and her 3 friends. They go to Oregon to get the wand, but they change their minds. That's your 3-act structure. In the second one, Mal is unhappy with her life. So she goes back to the Isle of the Lost. The friends trying to get Mal back from the Isle of the Lost, and they try to escape from there from Uma and her gang. That's your 3-act structure. Now for the third movie. Mal and Ben are engaged, so Audrey tries to take Maleficent's wand. Everybody, Mal and Uma team up to try and stop Audrey. They defeat Audrey. That's pretty much your 3-act structure. What about this one? Red is unhappy with her life. She time travels with Cinderella's daughter. They fix the timeline. Yeah, it's a pretty confusing mess. But that's honestly the weakest part that I did. Like, oh yeah, and the villains aren't that memorable. Now with Maleficent, she was fun. Uma was great. Audrey was good enough. Liliana, Ursula's older sister, wasn't exactly intimidating. And barely gets any screen time. Now, how about the stuff I do like? The musical numbers are on and amongst the memorable. Love Ain't It, Life is Sweeter, and my personal favorite, Red's introduction, Red. Honestly, it's so catchy, guys. Oh, and the best part of the movie, Kylie Cattrall as Red. She makes the character memorable. Honestly, she was fun. She was pretty fun. She made the character. The character isn't exactly complex, but she makes the character worth watching with her acting. Oh, and she's a great singer, honestly. Ever since I watched this movie, I've been listening to Kylie Cattrall's music. Her song "Boy for a Day," go give that a listen to that song. It's pretty freaking catchy. Now, I do like Rita Ora, who plays the Queen of Hearts. She was fun enough. But when it's Ruby Rose Turner's portrayal in the past, she was also pretty fun. Mila Baker's Chloe was fine enough. She was passable. But the ones that were utterly disappointing to me was Brandy as Cinderella, who barely gets any screen time. I mean, I know she's not my favorite and all, but when you get Brandy, show me Brandy. Oh, and my favorite character, Uma, played by China and McLean. Please tell me if I pronounced that correctly, is Uma. She's only there for the opening and the ending, and it feels disappointing. I mean, what if she came with them? Maybe, she could go with Red, to back in time. That could have been interesting. I mean, imagine if she met her aunt Uliana. Imagine the interactions they could have. That would have been so cool, but that's all we get. So yeah, this was an utter disappointment, but Kylie Cattrall was my favorite part of the movie. Kylie Cattrall, please just keep going with what you're doing. You're honestly among the best. It's great. But seeing how we're getting another movie in the future, who knows? Hopefully it's better than this. So Kylie Cattrall is what stops this movie from ranking lower and just going in D. That's pretty much it, so I would say skip this one, but just skip to Red scenes, and I think you'll have a good time. Number 19, Lisa Frankenstein. Now, I have some mixed feelings about this movie. Now, the premise here is actually kind of unique. Instead of trying to ask a boy out on a date constantly, why did she just make one from scratch? And I do mean that literally. I like the idea. I think it's kind of unique. It's just some of the humor is a bit much. Now, I wouldn't say it doesn't go over the top, but I don't think it's funny enough. But what really sells it is the acting. Cole Sprouse, I hope that pronounced that correctly, as the no-named creature, the boy that Lisa is making, gives a fun enough performance to make his character sympathetic. The side characters are portrayed fun. Lisa Sobriano as Taffy was pretty funny. I mean, she seems like the typical dense girl who has a good heart and is doing well, and she is a pretty good stepsister to Lisa. But the opposite is really pretty good too, and I love to see this character come up. And Carla Gugino as Janet. She played a nasty woman. And when that character got taken out, I was honestly clapping. Thank you for taking her out. She was a nasty person. But Carla Gugino does it really well. No wonder she was in the Spy Kids. But honestly, the star of the film is honestly the best character. And she's very tragic. Catherine Newton, mourn her later, gives a gives a decent performance to make the character complexing. Why she want to do this and where it ends. Honestly, Catherine Noonan is an underrated actress. I mean, I liked her performances in Detective Pikachu and Big Little Lies. But in 2024, she's been given two great movies back. She's been given great movies to star in, and honestly, since Catherine, you just keep up with whatever it is you're doing. Your acting is phenomenal. It's just the premise enough is a bit muddled, and the humor is not funny enough to make me commit. So yeah, I would put it in the C tier. It's competently made. The acting alone is what puts it in the middle. Honestly, the romance between Lisa and the creature is honestly kind of toots adorable. But the premise alone is not. It's what's stopping you from ranking higher. Number 18, Hellboy, the Crooked Man. This was the last movie that I saw last year, and it's good enough. It's just the story wasn't enough to get me hooked, but I watched it through it nonetheless. Okay, let's start off with the bad stuff. The story was all over the place. Character ideas are built up, but never take off. Feels unearned, and some characters aren't given enough to be interesting, except a couple. Oh, and the villain was kind of forgettable. I mean, it's named after him. He's called the Crooked Man, but he isn't given enough to be interesting. And the way they defeated him was pretty lame. Seriously, you couldn't give us something more dramatic? Okay, now let's get on to the stuff that was pretty decent. I like Jack Casey as Hellboy. Don't get me wrong, Ron Perlman will always be Hellboy to me. I mean, wherever you think the name Hellboy, who do you think of? Ron Perlman. But Jack Casey was competent enough. I mean, he pretty much has the charisma of David Harbour's portrayal from the Hellboy reboot, but the comedy of Ron Perlman from the original series. And Jack Casey does balance out between the two fine enough. I think the opening scene is honestly kind of creepy. It was kind of creepy. I mean, at the start of it, it's a because I'm spider, and it was freaky. Honestly, I do like Adeline Rudolph as Bobby Joe. Weird ass name, I know, but she gives a lot of character to this person who's kind of a badass. I mean, she says all the right things, does all the right things, and one of the few characters that survives in the end. Honestly, well done. I do like her interaction with Hellboy. It feels believable these two are friends, and even though they don't give enough for Hellboy's character arc, at least his interaction with Joe make it actually interesting enough. But it's not the worst Hellboy movie. No, that goes to the 2019 reboot. Christ. It's competent enough to at least be in the middle. It's a fine enough movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I honestly kind of recommend it. Watch the original series and this one. Just skip the reboot. Number 17, Immaculate. Now, I am going to put this out there because there's a similar movie like that on the list that's actually a bit higher, and won't be mentioning that one for a long time. I do actually like this movie. I will give to Sydney Sweeney, given that she was in one of the worst ever adapted movies this year, which is not on the list, sorry. At least she did this movie, and she gives a phenomenal performance. I mean, she gives Sister Cecilia a character arc that makes you root for her as she goes through absolute hell. And she is perfect. It's honestly perfect. Sydney Sweeney, please keep up the work. You are perfect. Oh, and the ending? I cannot believe they had the balls to go there. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. For those who don't know, how do I put this without getting demonetized or make it sound disturbing? She does something that's no character would actually do. That's pretty much all I can say. If you want to know, just type up the ending to Immaculate. I think it's going to be like, I cannot believe they actually went there. Oh, and honestly, the way it turns out is pretty decent. I mean, there are some dumb moments here and there, like, why didn't she obscure that chicken carcass a little bit more smartly somewhere else? That was kind of dumb. I get the idea she tried, but it didn't work, and it was pretty dumb. And there's and the opening scene where there were other ways she could have escaped, but it was fine enough as a movie. Honestly, what really got me was Sydney Sweeney's performance and the ending. Jesus, the ending. Oh my god, the ending. And honestly, Alvario Morte as Father Sal Tedeschi is honestly just a real sicko. I mean, he's not overly complex, but he was an intimidating villain. Alvaro Morte, please tell me if I pronounced that correctly, is pretty intimidating. I mean, it makes me want to see Cecilia take him out, and it's just so satisfying. Honestly, it's a fine, pretty decent Christian type horror film. So I put it as competently made. It's the dumb decisions that stop it from ranking higher, and some structures that don't make sense in logical terms. Trust me, there is a better version of this movie on this list, and it's honestly among one of my favorites. But Sydney Sweeney, keep getting more better work. Because if that other movie I mentioned didn't kill your career, this one at least boosted it up. So thank you, Immaculate, for giving this actress another try at acting. You are phenomenal. Number 16, Despicable Me 4. Yeah, I put this higher than Kung Fu Panda 4, and I am not ashamed to admit that. I'm honestly actually proud of myself for doing that, because Despicable Me 4 is actually a better made 4-core. A better made fourth installment of a franchise than Kung Fu Panda 4 ever did. I think it's the story that's what stops it from ranking higher. Don't get me wrong, the story is there. I think it's good enough. But the stuff that I saw in the trailer was it's obviously going to play out. It's the stuff with Gru and Lucy's infant son Gru Jr. It's obvious that this kid was going to hate his father and then love him at the end. And honestly, I could see that coming a mile away, and it feels forced. Oh, and it's not... There aren't a lot of times it's funny where it's giggle-worthy enough. Now onto the stuff Oh, and the minion stuff, superhero stuff, feels unnecessary and could have easily been cut. Now onto the stuff I do like. The villain here is honestly one among the best. He's up there with El Macho from Despicable Me 2 to actually be among the best. Oh, I forgot his name. Let me know down in the comments. But Will Ferrell actually is pretty good in this movie. Yeah. I'm gonna lay it to you straight. I hate Will Ferrell as an actor. Shocking. I know. He's honestly been in one of the most stupidest movies. Holmes and Watson. And amongst other dumb moments. But apart from Megamind being one of his best movies, Despicable Me 4 actually uses immense of his best talents. And he is a pretty good villain here. I'm surprised Will Ferrell can do a French accent. And I kind of like Joey King as Poppy. Honestly, this chick should be getting her own movie, honestly. She's kind of cool. She's kind of a badass. And that scene where she dances with her cat, dancing through the fire and the flames was pretty funny. Honestly, I keep rewinding that scene over and over. It's just funny. Oh, and the stuff with the girls. The scene where Edith stands up for Agnes against the karate teacher is honestly really funny. And also really sweet. So yeah, it's not the worst film in the series, but it could have been done a little better. Like, cut out the Super Minion scene, or do something interesting with the baby. So yeah, I put it in the C tier. Not the worst, but it could be better. Like, do something better with the son storyline, or just cut out the Super Minions. Number 15, Terrifier 3. After coming back from New Zealand this year, honestly, when I saw the Terrifier 3 was in the theater, I'm like, oh my god, I've got to see this movie before spoilers, people spoil it for me. And after seeing it, I think it's a step down from Terrifier 2. Okay, hear me out on this. Laura Varela as Sienna has got to be giving us a character-driven arc of this girl who has been literally through hell on Halloween night in the last movie, in Terrifier 2. Laura Varela acts the hell out as Sienna. I mean, this is a character who has gone through some of the darkest moments of her life. And she's hanging in there. She makes Sienna is so compelling. And to think she has to face the demon that made her life hell. I mean, this man has tormented her and her brother, destroyed their family, and pretty much did some nasty carnage that I sadly can't say or show because I'm worried about the YouTube is going to demonetize this video. But it's honestly so disturbing. Oh, and David Howard Thornton keeps at it with Art the Clown. He makes the character so compelling. Oh, and teaming him up with Victoria, played by Samantha Scafidi, sorry if I mispronounced that, is honestly such a cool idea. I mean, Victoria as a character is not given enough depth. I mean, she was introduced halfway through the first movie, is barely only appears at the end of the last movie, but is given more of a character in this movie, and I do like their team up. It's kind of a sick idea, and it's so creatively dark. Oh yeah, and they keep the Carnage Candy going with stuff I sadly can't show, but if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. My god. I couldn't turn away even for a second. Oh, and did I mention it's a Christmas movie? Yeah, you thought Halloween was the night to be scared. Christmas is enough to scar you. Oh, Jesus. And I thought Silent Night, Deathly Night was the movie that destroyed Christmas. Yeah, this one was pretty much. It went there. It went into places I thought it wouldn't. But it does have several problems. Jonathan was given a lot as a character in the last movie, but he's not given enough in this one. Now I get it. He wants to deal with the trauma on his version. I get that, but they don't give enough for Elliot Fullman as Jonathan to do. I mean, what they do with these characters in the end, they can't. It's just feels unearned. I mean, it feels awfully unearned. Oh, and the ending feels like another dumb cliffhanger making us wait for the next installment. And yeah, they just announced another one. And yeah, honestly, the ending doesn't work for me. It honestly doesn't. I'm sorry. That's honestly it. Honestly, Terrifier 3 was a real step down from Part 2. Not the worst of the trilogy, but if they went even crazier, it could have been another fun time at the movies. But if you're in for the character study stuff, you're gonna have a great time. Oh, and if you're here for Art the Clown, you're gonna have a great time either way. Just ignore, honestly, a pretty lackluster cliffhanger ending. I hope Terrifier 4 gives us a satisfying ending, because this ain't it. Number 14, The Beekeeper. As the first movie I saw last year, this was a fun time. This was honestly one of the funniest movies that I saw last year. Yes, there are funnier ones, but this was the first. Okay, so what can I honestly say about this? Jason Statham, you give us among some of the fun performances of your career. You were good in Spy, you were fun in The Meg, and honestly, you were great in this movie. This movie is so good. This stupid premise for a movie shouldn't have worked, but somehow it did. Oh, and did I mention the villains among the funniest I ever watched? I mean, they give us a team up of Josh Hutcherson and Jeremy Irons. Oh, you know, Josh Hutcherson from Five Nights at Freddy's, or Jeremy Irons from the... I'm sorry. Every time Jeremy Irons is brought up... I'm sorry. We got Jeremy Irons from the original Dungeons and Dragons acting again, and oh my god, some of the line deliveries this actor gives us is pure comedy gold. No, sit down, or I'm sorry, I need a moment. I'm sorry. So yeah. It's pretty fun, and the action is just some of the most fun comedy I've seen. Now, onto the stuff that stops it from ranking higher is I think Emmy Revan LaPace as Verona. She's not given enough as a character to work with. Now, I know she's going through trauma of losing her mother, who is, what Jason Statham's character, Adam Clay, I think, is, going after these guys for, but she's not given enough to satisfy me. If I'm getting the actors and characters' names wrong, let me know down in the comments. I hope I've got this right. Oh, and Gemma Redgrave from Doctor Who is in this. She's fun enough. But overall, this was a bang to a start of 2024 that I needed. So yeah, it's the first in the B tier. It's a fun movie that you have to turn your brain off to have a good time. I know it's nonsensical, but it's a fun nonsensical. Oh, and the next entry keeps it up in that obscurity. Number 13, Red One. Oh yeah, we're up to the fun dumb portion of the list. And this idea, like I said in the last entry, is such a dumb idea. It works. It honestly works, and this premise alone should be a franchise. Please make this a franchise. This is an idea that could be like made into a film series or a TV show. Give us more of this. Okay, so yeah, it's another Christmas movie, and sadly not one that scars you. Ugh. But one that has a fun premise. Santa Claus gets kidnapped, and the guy who sold him out and Santa Claus's bodyguard team up to save Christmas, as they call it. I honestly like the fun between Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans. Dwayne Johnson does his usual stick of being serious but with a few hints of humor in there, while Chris Evans does his cute charm that portrays his character as a douche, but lovable douche. And they work well off each other. Lucy Liu's in this too, and she gets fun enough performances too. Honestly, this premise alone should be... It's just such a dumb fun idea that surprisingly works. I kinda like Karen Shipka's performance as the villain Grilla. Grilla? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. At first, yeah, I'll get into the actual dumb stuff. Honestly, she was fine enough at first. She looked kind of intimidating, and I was kind of split. They got a very young actor. I mean, this chick's like, what, in her mid-20s? Battling against some people half her age. Well, not her character's age, I mean the actress's age. But she was kind of cool. Her motivation was interesting, and she had kind of a cool design. Kind of a, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, actually becoming an actual witch. No, really, she's called the Christmas Witch. Oh, and J.K. Simmons in this. And he's a pretty decent Santa Claus. If you want to know more details of why I like more of that, go watch my top 5 favorite Santa Claus. My Christmas special that I released a week ago. Go watch that if you want to know more. But honestly, he is great in this movie. I thoroughly enjoyed him. He was fun enough. He had cool ideas, and I like he's more muscly than usual. Honestly, the ending sequence where he delivers the presents is some of the most creative that I ever seen. I mean, the way him and the elves, the one played by The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, sorry, the way they shrink down and grow is some of the most creative and coolest ideas. And yeah, they call it elf. I forgot what it actually means, but it's such a fun idea. Is that it on the cool? Oh yeah, now onto the dumb stuff. Now, I like Karen Shipka at first. Again, she was cool, intimidating, and had a cool motivation. But when you start actually showing her true form is when it turns the cool factor down. Now, I don't mind that the idea of her literally becoming so magnificently tall you could still be intimidated, but the CG lets it down, and the voice, oh god, the voice, it feels underwhelming. That's honestly the dumbest part of the film. It feels lifeless. Why do we need CG her? I know they built up the witch part of her character, but this was a big letdown. Oh, actually, yeah, I just remembered that my favorite part of the movie is Krampus. Yes, Santa Claus has a brother named Krampus. And honestly, him playing as the laid-back, alcoholic, chill type of Krampus who likes the Kung Fu slap, which is the Krampus slap, I think. Honestly, he is so damn funny. I could watch his scenes on repeat. He is legit funny, honestly. He's so damn funny. So yeah, I put this in the B tier. A silly premise that actually works, with a fun cast, interesting idea, but with a villain that's kind of 50-50. She was cool when she was in her human form, but when she became her true form, that was a big letdown. So yeah, I consider this the top of I consider this a fun enough movie that honestly should be a franchise. And that's the end of the video. Yes, it's a long one, but I think you'll find it fun. So, I don't know when I'm going to be posting this, but I'll probably post this as soon as I get home. I've got a I don't know when I'm going to I'll try and post it, like, in the middle of the day, I think. I don't know. But I promise you will get both videos on today. I promise you that. Probably in the next couple of hours, I will give you the second half of the rankings. The ones I consider B plus to S tier. Until then, I'm the Shadow Reviewer, signing off.